Every single morning, it feels like Canada is waking up to a new threat from Donald Trump. New day, new target, new headline. He has accustomed the world to flinching at his every tweet. He expects markets to crash. He expects leaders to panic. But this past Thursday, something changed. The script broke. Roughly 20 minutes before sitting down to watch a documentary about his wife, Donald Trump decided to declare war on the Canadian aviation industry. In a fit of impulse, he threatened a 50% tariff on Canadian aircraft and, even more absurdly, threatened to decertify them, effectively banning them from U.S. airspace. On paper, this looked like a nuclear strike on Canada's economy. Bombardier is our industrial crown jewel. Trump expected fear. He expected Prime Minister Mark Carney to come to the table begging for mercy. But instead of fear, he got a reality check. Instead of panic, he got a cold shoulder from the markets. And instead of leverage, he got publicly humiliated by his own lack of basic facts. By Friday morning, the threat hadn't just failed, it had exploded in his hands, exposing the complete incompetence of his administration. Mark Carney didn't just reject the threat, he let the facts humiliate Donald Trump for him. Today, we are going inside the timeline of a failure. We are going to look at how one hysterical threat turned into a strategic victory for Canada, and why Mark Carney's silence was louder than Donald Trump's scream. Let's dissect the accusation. Trump claimed that Canada was wrongfully, illegally, and steadfastly refusing to certify new business jets made by the American company Gulfstream. He painted a picture of a trade conspiracy designed to protect Bombardier. He was specific. He said Canada refused to certify the Gulfstream 500, 600, 700, and 800. That sounds like a serious diplomatic offense, doesn't it? There is just one problem. It is a lie. And that isn't my opinion. That is a verifiable fact that Canadian reporters uncovered within minutes of his post. Listen to this clip from CBC News, where reporter Willie Lowry destroys the president's entire argument in less than 10 seconds.
On Truth Social, he said, based on the fact that Canada has wrongfully, illegally, and steadfastly refused to certify the Gulfstream 500, 600, 700, and 800 jets, one of the greatest, most technologically advanced airplanes ever made, we are hereby decertifying their Bombardier Global Expresses and all aircraft made in Canada until such time as Gulfstream, a great American company, is fully certified as it should have been many years ago. Now, according to Transport Canada's website, the 500 and 600 have actually already been certified.
Did you catch that? Already certified. The President of the United States is threatening a trade war over a blockade that does not exist. He didn't even bother to ask his aides to check the Transport Canada website. But it gets worse. Trump called Canada's actions illegal. He tried to frame a standard safety review as a crime. But the aviation world knows better. Listen to John Gradek, an aviation expert from McGill University, explain what is actually happening.
It's not illegal. Canada has its own certification process for commercial aircraft and private aircraft. The Canadian process is, world class. I think that, the way that Transport Canada does its certification is exemplary. They'll take their time. They'll take the time required to, in fact, make sure the airplane is safe for Canadians and for that airplane to operate in Canada. So it is not illegal that Transport Canada is taking its time. It is part of its regular process.
So we have the U.S. president calling a world-class safety process illegal. That isn't diplomacy. That is embarrassment. So if it's not a conspiracy, why is Canada delaying the certification of the newer Gulfstream models, the G700 and G800? Trump says it's politics. Reality says it's physics. The issue isn't bureaucracy. The issue is a fuel icing defect. In these new models, there is a risk that tiny droplets of water in the fuel system could freeze, potentially blocking the flow of fuel to the engines. Let's be very clear about what that means. If fuel stops flowing at 40,000 feet, the plane becomes a glider. In the United States, the FAA decided to grant Gulfstream a time-limited exemption. Basically, they said, "We know it's an issue, but you can keep flying until 2026 while you fix it." Transport Canada simply said, "No, we don't do exemptions on safety. Prove the system is safe first, then you get the certificate." Trump is trying to turn safety standards into a political weapon. He's demanding that Canada lower its safety standards to match American loopholes. And when we refuse to gamble with passenger lives, he calls it a trade war. This is not just stupid, it is dangerous. But let's play the game. Let's imagine Trump followed through. Let's imagine he slapped a 50% tariff on Bombardier tomorrow. Who does he punish? Mark Carney? Justin Trudeau? Quebec? No, he punishes the American worker. What Trump refuses to understand is that 21st century aviation has no borders. Bombardier is a Canadian company by name, but it is North American by nature. Look at the numbers the White House ignored. Bombardier has 2,800 suppliers inside the United States. These suppliers are located across 47 different states. The company directly employs 3,000 Americans. Take the flagship Global 7500 jet. Its wings, they are manufactured in Texas. Its avionics and cockpit systems, made in Iowa. Its motors, often finished in Indiana. More than 50% of the value of this Canadian jet is actually created in American factories. So when Trump tweets, "I will tariff Bombardier," he is actually saying, "I am going to tax a factory in Texas." He is telling workers in Iowa that their jobs are less important than his ego. This is the textbook definition of economic self-sabotage. And that is exactly why, within hours of the threat, White House officials started panic dialing reporters. They issued clarifications. They backpedaled. They said, "Oh, this only applies to new planes." Why the U-turn? Because the CEOs of Delta Airlines and NetJets likely called the White House screaming. Delta flies the Airbus A220, assembled in Quebec. Grounding them would cripple U.S. travel. Trump tried to pull a trigger, only to realize the gun was pointed at his own foot. There is one more layer to this that is particularly cynical. Among the aircraft Trump threatens to block is the Canadair amphibious plane. Bloomberg News recently called this the world's most desperately needed airplane. Why? Because it is the most effective weapon we have against wildfires. Every summer, California, Oregon, and Washington state burn. American governors beg for these planes. These Canadian-built machines save American homes, American forests, and American lives. To threaten these planes, to use firefighting equipment as a bargaining chip in a dispute about luxury jets for billionaires, that isn't just bad economics, that is moral bankruptcy. It shows that for this administration, protecting Gulfstream's profit margins is more important than protecting American citizens from fire. And this brings us to the most telling part of the story. How did Canada respond? Did you see panic in Ottawa? Did you see emergency press conferences? Did you see Prime Minister Carney rushing to Mar-a-Lago? No. While Trump was rage-posting in all caps, Mark Carney was at a cultural gala, speaking calmly about Canadian values. He didn't even mention the jets. It was a strategic silence. His industry minister, Melanie Joly, gave a short, dry statement. "Certification is underway. We do not politicize safety. Period. No emotion, no counter-insults, just facts." This episode revealed the new reality of U.S.-Canada relations. Trump tried to bully Canada just like he used to, but he hit a wall of competence. He threatened actions he had no legal authority to take. He threatens to hit Canada, but aimed at the U.S. economy. He wanted to look strong, but he looked uninformed. By the time markets closed on Friday, Bombardier shares were already recovering. The investors realized what the experts already knew. The king is naked. The threat is hollow. Mark Carney won this battle without even drawing his sword. He simply allowed Donald Trump to defeat himself. And that is the lesson for the world. You don't fight chaos with chaos. You fight it with order, discipline, and the truth. For clear, fact-driven analysis of how Canada holds the line, subscribe to Canada Today. Like this video, share it, and stay with us.